I didn't dislike going to church. You know, there was something I felt quite meaningful about it.
Phil Johnson was 9 years old when he joined the choir at St Andrew's Church in Eastbourne.
The church, it's a reasonably imposing building. It's a very, very tall, red brick church. It was almost like an unwritten rule that as soon as I hit 8 years old, I would join the choir too, and I did.
Gary proudly followed in his big brother's footsteps, their vicar, Reverend Roy Cotton.
He was a very educated person, and he would leverage that to engage you in conversation or learning.
But soon the young boys could tell something wasn't right.
He would give me alcohol and cigarettes and things when I was really quite young, you know, 10, 11, 12 years old. And, you know, this was all a secret, you know, all secret treats.
Cotton was cunning, devious and manipulative.
It felt like you were being singled out and recruited.
Also predatory.
He physically overpowered me, and I believed I was going to die.
And dangerous.
The abuse itself was, it was kind of all intrusive. It became all encompassing.
Targeted, groomed and abused, both boys suffered at the hands of the same priest. Their family, their entire lives, so integrated into the church, they felt utterly powerless to stop him, totally alone. And what's so extraordinary about this story is the brothers didn't even feel able to tell each other until they were adults.
There was a story on the lunchtime news on the radio about a abusive vicar. And I could just see out the corner of my eye that Gary froze. You know, he stopped what he was doing, and it's just like the penny dropped in that moment. And I just turned to him and I said, "Did anything happen to you with Roy Cotton?"
Their deepest, darkest secret was shared as they worked in an office together in Eastbourne.
Time itself sort of froze, and I don't know how long it was like that for. But what was going through my mind in the moment was less about what happened in the past. It was more about the fact that what I had tried to keep secret was now out. And I knew there was no way back. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know how to respond. That's why I just didn't. But it was a horrible sensation. It was almost like being caught red-handed.
Gary pursued a new life in the US. A keyboard player with bleach blonde hair, he helped produce a string of smash hits.
Working with Robert Palmer was quite special, especially shooting the video out in the Mojave Desert. It was my first trip to the USA.
But he could only temporarily suppress the horrors of his childhood.
It's only after the fact that everything came crashing down for me, and I realized the extent of what had actually happened to me.
He now lives alone in Southern California. He is a store manager for a large phone and tech retailer. Divorced, he has a young son who lives 100 miles away.
I try not to blame the past for the route my life has taken, but it is very difficult to disassociate it completely. I keep tabs on what's going on in the UK, just online, or my brother, of course, is a great point of contact. He lets me know anything important that's happening.
While one brother took flight, the other stayed here in Eastbourne to fight. And for Phil Johnson, it has been a 20-year battle with the church, with no end in sight.
A survivor of abuse, Phil is now a respected campaigner, head of an organisation which assists victims of abuse. Today, he's at Lambeth Palace, the London residence of the Archbishop of Canterbury. He meets bishops here regularly, part of his mission to make the church a safer place and to improve the way the church responds to victims of abuse.
Having access to senior members of clergy and people in authority in the church does make a difference. I think it ensures that they have a better understanding of the impact that abuse has on people's lives, for the whole of their lives sometimes.
Sexual abuse of children can have a profound effect on the adults they become. Gary dealt with it by finding a new life in America. Phil confronting the institution he holds responsible and going public.
Two brothers who were sexually abused.
Gary and Phil first told their story in 2011. The reason they took such a profound step is they'd discovered their abuser, Reverend Roy Cotton, had been allowed into the church despite having a previous conviction for molesting a choir boy.
Being abused is bad enough. Being abused by someone in such a position of authority means that I don't trust doctors, I don't trust the police, I don't trust anyone in a position of authority. I don't trust men.
Their bravery prompted other survivors of Cotton to come forward.
He was manipulative to the extreme. I mean, I was scared. I was very scared.
They have contributed to 4 separate church-commissioned reviews examining safeguarding failings surrounding their case and others. Their determination prompting admissions of cover-up and deception in the past.
By cover-up, I mean that a person in authority.
Their case has led to the jailing of a significant number of clergy, including retired Eastbourne priests Jonathan Graves.
Mr. Graves, you're now a convicted child sex offender. Mr. Coles, are you ashamed?
And Robert Coles.
Mr. Coles, would you like to say anything to the victims?
But also the highest-ranking member of the Church of England to ever be convicted of sexual abuse, former Bishop of Lewes, Bishop Peter Ball.
It is the brothers' pursuit of the truth which has served as a catalyst here in Sussex, helping to expose a disturbing Church of England sex abuse scandal.
Phil is visiting his abuser's grave. The brothers' personal battle for criminal justice ended 20 years ago when they were told there weren't enough independent witnesses to prosecute Cotton. He died in 2006. It's feared he abused dozens of boys.
How'd it go? Horrible.
In 2010, Gary underwent a psychiatric assessment. The brothers had chosen to fight for justice through the civil courts. To gain compensation from the church, both were repeatedly evaluated by experts who assessed the damage caused by the abuse. A process that often re-traumatises victims. They eventually received a financial settlement from the church and a formal apology accepting mistakes that led to their abuse.
We are deeply and profoundly sorry for what happened. Really ashamed on behalf of the church community.
Secretary Theresa May.
The Sussex Church sex abuse scandal is now the focus of a national inquiry ordered by then Home Secretary Theresa May.
Where there has been a failure to protect children from abuse, we will expose it and we will learn from it.
The Prime Minister was born in Eastbourne, her father an Anglican minister in the town. Phil Johnson is a key witness in the inquiry she ordered. It'll start to examine what happened in churches in Sussex early next year.
I want to make sure that that inquiry does get nearer to the truth than what we've already had. And that takes an awful lot of work and effort. And so I feel if I step back from that, it's kind of throwing away all the work that you've done.
For me, it's less about the church, it's more about making the world a slightly safer place. I have a son of my own, and I want to give him the best chance. I don't want him to live in a bubble. I want him to live and have his own experiences, but I want to have less chance that he has to ever deal with anything I had to deal with.
Although separated by water, abuse has only served to strengthen the bond between these brothers and their common cause to seek out the whole truth.